all the inks.
The blues, faded jeans. Okay, so this is the charts. These are ink pads. I don't know if he does charts. I'm sure he does. These are kind of for rubber stamps and so
There's Tim.
Back center of the booth all day. I'm going to go have lunch. Did you get a ticket? I can grab her. So, come on. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
So he's going to show how.
So I'm just going to talk about some of the new releases. If you have any specific questions on some of the products, I'd be happy to talk about it. There's obviously a lot of different dyes. We are introducing punches. We have the shadow press station, different surfaces. So a lot going on. But some of the fun new things, of course, with the dyes is really taking dyes into more of a, I think, a dimensional aspect. That was kind of my thought process behind several of the new ones. So I'll just take you through some of my favorites, and we'll go from there. Let me see. I'm going to start with, I love that. I'll get to that, but I'll start with that, and I might finish with that. So first I'll talk about mixed media. Mixed media is a really cool dye set because really what this does is this is a set of dyes that instead of cutting out a shape, it really cuts a pattern. It's the best way to think of it. In other words, the outer edge of all of these dyes does not have any blade to it. So it doesn't really cut out anything around it, it simply cuts the pattern. And this is the effect that it gives. You can use it through a lot of different surfaces, different cardstock, different papers. So here I'll go in with, I'll just take some cardstock. So I can take paper. Now, I'll talk a little bit about working with the thin dyes for thinlets. There's a lot of different ways that we can work with these dyes. I've learned quite a bit as we've discovered these detail dyes that there's some different ways that you can use them, some little tips. First of all, if you have a dye that has a lot of intricate shape that you want to remove out of it, really using wax paper is super beneficial between the dye and the paper. It's one of those tricks that I really didn't think mattered, but it does actually. What it does is it kind of creates a barrier between the inside of the dye and the paper, and it helps the paper release from the dye. And you can leave the wax paper in it or not. Okay, it's completely up to you. Sometimes it'll just stay in, other times it falls back out. One thing that you do have to be careful of though is if you plan on inking that shape, that wax is transferred to the outer edge and it kind of acts as a resist, which could also be very cool if you're working with it. For this, because it's a pattern, I'm not really that concerned with it. I'm going to cut using the magnetic platform. I do need to use a platform for this die, and I'm going to just use the cutting pad. So I'll put that in there. Now, usually if you follow the picture, it's going to tell you to put the paper and you're going to put the die face down, okay? That is one way to do it. But if you aren't that particular about exactly where it's placed, like I'll follow this if I'm going to still do the letters. If I want to do the letters or a word, I'm going to follow that. But I found that if you can cut with the blade up, you'll get a much more detailed cut. And here's the theory behind it. And I know it defeats the whole purpose of this, but to me I've had a better cutting experience. When you're running this through the rollers and you have the pressure of the machine, the pressure has to go through this thick of layer before it's pushing into the blade. Okay? When the blade is up, the only thing between the roller and the blade is this thickness of material. So you get a lot more pressure that's pushing down, cutting into that material. So I found myself just kind of working with it that way. But again, it will cut either way. It's completely up to you. But I found like if I'm cutting the globe or the United States and I can just take out the shape, I don't really care where the die is as long as it's covered. But on something like this where I really want to see where it's at, I'm still going to follow it the regular way. And I just say that because you may see in some videos where you're like, wait a minute, like you don't have the die on the top, you have the die on the bottom, does it really matter? It will cut either way, but sometimes for the more intricate ones, if you have that die up, it's just going to be a lot easier. What's fun about this die is now I can decide where I want to position it. I can go right along the edge, because it's not going to cut the edge. I can go anywhere inside it. So this is really cool with any of these textures that I can do. A photograph, I can do anything I want to add some texture. So just going to place it, put a cutting pad on top, go in, run this through. Now thin dies, it's completely up to you if you want to do 2 cuts. You know, I'm in the habit just of running through twice just so I make sure that it's cut. And I'm just going to go in, slide it off, take a look at that, pop this out. And this is going to be the pattern. And this is what I really love about this. Yeah, that intricacy. They've got all those little gadgety tools. Yeah, still a picture. I like that. So what's great about this is that you've got this pattern, and of course there's been many times that I'll cut this out of a surface and I look forward to leaving pieces in there. You know, if there's pieces in there, I'll be like, oh, cool, I'm going to lay it on something else, because it's really that kind of design and pattern. I really purposely kind of create that like torn edge that really gives it a cool effect. You do get some unique shapes when it comes to this die. I refer to as just odd confetti, so there's nothing that I've really done for this or saved it, but I suppose if you Xyroned it, you could. I'm just going to pop those pieces out. That brush is super helpful if you're going to clean it. This will work just fine. Okay, so mixed media. Again, we've got lattice, we've got a really great honeycomb, and that's super thin. And not only thin, but kind of a broken design. I'll cut that because it's one of my favorites. Put that on this other side. And I did design a lot of these as kind of a corner, so it just allows you to position it anywhere you want on a card. I thought that was really a cool way to do it. Let's position that there. I'm gonna run through. No one's happy. All right, go that way, stop. Now, if you're working with the Vagabond and you're gonna change direction, wait till the machine stops before you flip it the other way. It's kind of like putting your car in reverse when you're driving it. Probably not a good idea. All right. Then we're going to start pushing those out. But here's what's really great about that pattern. Really thin, and I love kind of those broken aspects that I did in the design. That's why I called it mixed media, because you can have inked something, painted something, die cut this, and then lay it over something else. If you are incorporating a photograph in your work, it's very cool to die cut this through a photograph, because we're always going to have some sort of dead space in a photo, whether it's the background sky or the foreground, that you may want to have a pattern or journaling or something visible behind it if this was going into a page of a book. A lot of different things that we can do with mixed media. That being said, I will find another die that's not even out here. It's called Shape Strips. And it's one that kind of needs demoing, needs explaining, because the packaging could seem deceiving for that one. Because people think they've got that one all figured out when they see it, and it's very different. Let's see where it's buried though. I know I used it yesterday. No, that's not it. That's not it. That's not it. That's not it. Oh, there it is. Love that we're in Ziploc bag mode. Wow. How professional. Okay. Great die set. This is called Shape Strips. So what it is, it's just a bunch of shapes in a strip. So what you have to understand is it's not really cutting out the strip, it's cutting out the shapes. So think of it as kind of an anywhere punch, so to speak. Meaning, if I was going to work with this, and these are sized that you can use these on Project Life cards, you can also use it on the pocket cards. So this is going to give you the ability to cut through things. It's also designed, of course, to cut through Instagram photos, you know, anything that's going to be small for those little books or cards. I've designed the shapes where you can have them in a vertical fashion, going upright, or the same going horizontal, depending on how you want to lay that out on a project. And here's how it works. It's really simple. So let's say I had something that was already pre-cut. He or she went in and used the shadow press station, and I want to add some hearts to it. I can go in and position this anywhere I want. Okay, that's where that's going to go. Position it straight down. For these little guys, you can use any cutting pad, but why not just use something small that's there? And I'm going to run this through. Now when I run this through, what I like about this is that it's not going to cut the outer edge. It's just going to cut out the little shapes. Right? That's really great. It's fun. So this can go, again, through photographs, through pre-existing cards, anything that you want to create that pattern. If you want to do something that's kind of all over, you can go in and repeat this. So if you wanted to create a really cool background, you could just take that, cut it, move it up again, cut it. You can alternate your rows, and you can cut out a whole cool lattice background with these, because it's just a bunch of shapes in a strip. I don't know what to call it, but a lot of people, when you see the packaging, you'll see each one like in its own uniform color, and you think, oh, it's going to cut off like this stick, and you'll run it through, you'll be like, wait a minute, I got to cut my paper? So, yeah. But these guys, of course, these are going to give you fun pieces to work with. So all of these little shapes, you're going to have leftover hearts, leftover stars, leftover arrows, leftover chevron pieces. So this is really good to get kind of the positive and negative of these. I love the numbers. Oh, that was really nice of her to pick this one out for me. The numbers are really great because it's going to give us the negative number, but it's also going to give us the positive. But I'm going to pick this out so I can fill it up and leave it for her to turn the paper. This is actually my favorite part of diagnosing, is that is there something wrong with me or what? It's like a game. You notice that? You do that. It's not your thing? No. You're more the wax paper person? Yeah, I'm going to put wax paper in this one. Because it's just easier. It does. So let's take a piece of wax paper. Lay that over the die. Let's see if there's a color left out. Utilize that. Kick this right back through. Again, I'm going to put my die in there. Now I will say, when you're working with these thin dies and you're working on the magnetic platform, you need to find a place that is comfortable for the die. Meaning there's super strong magnets. So if you position it, watch where you put it, because if there's a magnet just offset, it's going to move that over. So that's why I said kind of find out where the die wants to be and then position your paper to where you want it to cut. Because it happens too many times. You line it up, you lay it there, and then it's and then you cut it and totally forgot that it was like that. So next we're going to take our cutting pad. And here we're just going to get that great negative of these numbers. That's our downside of wax paper. Now you got to pick it out of the card. Always picking somewhere. This isn't even cut all the way. Now that didn't even cut all the way. You get the idea on those. I love that one. I love the numbers. I love all kind of those, I guess, more graphic patterns in this line. I think it's really fun. Well, I'll save this for her. I'll save it. All right. Let's talk about postage. Did she show you postage dots? No? Let's talk about that. I really like the idea of kind of combining different types of art in with die cuts. So if you like to do art journaling, if you like to do anytime like you're going on a trip somewhere and you have a lot of ephemera, or if you're a stamper,